Hello everybody, welcome to this playthrough for Expert Division here in the Spring Major Tournament. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. And before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and also visit golfclashtommy.com for more Golf Clash related content. You can get the best text guides on the market by becoming a Patreon. Link to patreon.com/golfclashtommy is in the description down below. In this playthrough, you will see plenty of drops. You will see also some very close misses. I do believe we should be able to achieve a -15 here pretty easily. We definitely a possibility making both a -18, 18, 19 and 20. And I don't know if it's just me that feel that way about this course. Then let me know what you think in the comment section below. Use the info box on the right hand side where you find the elevation for all the shots, for also what, not the elevation but the ball and the club that I do feel is going to be key for you to use on that specific hole. But enough from me about this at least, and let's go to hole number 1. For hole number 1, we're going to play just a conservative drive on the right hand side. I'm using, in this case, 5 bars of topspin and 4 bars of side spin to the right. Here you can see an extra mile level 9, which has a little bit more distance than an extra mile level 8 and below. So have that in mind. But in the end, we're going to play it the same way, trying to have the ball guideline with a second bounce just in between the bunkers. That's the only thing that you will focus on. Wherever you then be putting your rings and stuff doesn't really matter. But when we play with an extra mile, when the accuracy is so different from level to level, I would like us to focus on the ball guideline more than we focus on the rings, because the rings could fool us massively. Once we have adjusted, push up your target into max, and then it's time to take your shot. And I would honestly recommend to go with a little bit more topspin when it comes to playing, you know, with 6 bars topspin would be perfect. But I also understand if you do have a lower level extra mile, you might only have 4.5 bar topspin, but then you obviously have to use whatever you have and then go with the 4.5 bars. Second shot, we play 20% over adjustment, and now I do judge this one as we are in medium distance of our club. But we're looking at it again, it looks more or less like 60% of our club, 60-70%, and I think I judged this one slightly incorrect though. I'm using here white ring by the start of the frames to always try to keep that spot. That's what I'm looking for, to bring consistency in distance. 1.5 bar backspin, and then it's time to adjust, and I'm going to adjust this one for 3.9 rings. Adjusting the 3.9, and then it's time to take our shot, and we are going to notice that this ball is going to miss, but it's not going to be that far away. Perfect ball, bounce, and it rolls towards the pin and just missed that one to the right. We do need to add a little bit more and play it 60% instead of 50 that I'm doing it there. 20% over adjustment is what we're keeping it at though here for hole number 1. For hole number 2, we are going to play a rough bump, and here it's very important that you start by adding spin. Max side spin right with a side spin 1 ball and 2.8 backspin. Now look at the bottom part of the yellow ring, just to be just above the bunker with the ball guideline through the hole. And now when it comes to making our adjustment, we're playing minimum distance -5% power 3 ball. Here I do adjust with a power 2 ball settings, but we need to adjust with a power 3 ball setting, because we do need that extra decimal that we do get with power 3 ball settings. Because with a power 2 ball setting here, we're gonna come in very nicely, we're gonna clip the rough, we're gonna roll towards the pin, but we're just going to miss on the left hand side here. And the thing that we need an extra decimal, and then we're gonna get that one in the hole. Make sure to have, when it comes to pull angle, favor 1201. Meaning that we do want it to be center ticking right, not to be a hefty 1201, but just a favoring 1201, so you're not having like an 1159, because if you do have a bad, you know, 1159 pull, you will most definitely risk the bunker. But this is my play here on hole number 2 with a super good chance for an hole-in-one. Hole number 3, this is going to be a huge hole because first and foremost we have a funnel that we're going to play for, and also having an albatross is massive due to tiebreaker. 4 bars of the topspin, and you can see that I'm playing it slightly less than max distance. This to adapt for a position that would be for an extra mile level 8. If you do play with an extra mile level 7 or below, I would recommend you to play with 4.5 bar topspin instead of 4. So 4 topspin with extra mile 8 and 9, max side spin right with just maximum distance plus 10, and then we're just going to take a normal shot. Do not push up or pull back anything, and no curl. Bouncing on the fairway, and we are looking for a yardage around 360 yards. We see here where we do get to 355, a little bit shorter than we wanted to, but from 355 we are going to play this one minimum distance with a 5% under adjustment. 2 bars of topspin, max left spin, and now we're trying to catch the funnel. Make sure that the ball guideline is to, straight in the pin, and it's going to be approximately it's going to be the red ring by the rough line. Might be some slight overlapping there with the red ring as well. The reason we're missing this shot here to the right hand side is because we are adjusting too much. We're playing this one minimum distance without any elevation, and that's why I do want you to play minus 5% instead, and then you're not gonna miss this shot. So obviously with a great left there, we will be getting that one in the hole, but the ball doesn't get the kick too much to the enough to the right, so therefore we just miss it. This is, however, though, going to be an absolute must albatross, and it sucks not getting it in the hole here. It's showing it here for you all, but minus 5% from 355 is minimum distance, and then you're gonna see yourself drop that one more than you're gonna miss. For hole number 4, we are going to play with a side spin 3 ball. It's not so important what wind resistance it is, but I would say wind resistance 4 or 5 would be the one that I lean towards. Plus 2 yard mark with the Goliath, and I think that's very, very important that the plus 2 yard mark should be more focused than where you're putting your rings, because you have the same power on your Goliath even if you have a lower level Goliath and a higher level Goliath. But the problem is that the accuracy is changing from almost level to level, which means that the yellow ring by Goliath level 9 will be smaller than the one with a Goliath level 8765. So for me here, it's very important that you focus on the plus 2 yard mark, max side spin left, 5.5 bar top spin, and we're going to take the position once again. We're going to have the position with the top of the ball guideline going towards one green square to the left of the pin, okay? The reason I'm using an offset here instead of using just a plus 15 instead of a plus 20, it's due to the fact that we will have to, if we use a lower elevation, have to pull back a ring after our adjustment, because you're gonna notice that our first bounce is going to be pretty much aligned with our adjustment now. So a plus 15 would really destroy. So we offset to the left, we adjust max plus 20, we use a wind 4/5 ball together with side spin 3. We have the Centurion, we have the Kingmaker, we do have the Daruma, we do have the Feather Ball, we do have the Kraken Ball. There is plenty of them, but use those, you're gonna have a really good chance making an hole-in-one. For hole number 5, we're going to play this shot, and not for the green because we have headwind, but we do want to gain as much distance possible here. And the thing with this shot is that we're using as much topspin possible. I would also like you to use 3 bars of left spin just to compensate for the wind push that we're having coming right to left. And now we're not starting in maximum distance, we're starting in approximately +3, +4, +5. It all depends on what type of club you're having. And just to have it said, the club, or like the driver, that has the most distance and topspin combined is the club that I want you to choose. Just because I play with an XMI level 8 here doesn't mean that you need to do that if you do have a Thor's Hammer level 6 plus or Apocalypse level 5 plus. Because the most topspin and distance, the easier it's going to be for you getting it as far as possible, because that's what we're looking for. Now you didn't see that yardage, but that yardage was 367 yards, and I played maximum distance plus 10, giving myself as well 2 to 3 rings of overpower. Please don't be too easy on the overpower and use a hefty amount so you can get it to at least 370. Second shot now. My original plan here was to use the blue ring by the fringe and then adapt the backspin based on, you know, my position here. Because the important part for me to have in mind here is that I do want you to find the same position all the time. And the only thing that you then have to do is to adapt the backspin based on your yardage on your drive. So now we're using the white ring from 367, and we're going to adjust this one with a 10% over adjustment, medium distance. And you will notice here that medium distance plus 0.2 rings, which is approximately 60% of our club. But the thing is though, that I want us to start with the blue ring instead. I think that's going to be much more consistent for us to have the blue ring by the fringe, then adopt backspin from that. And the yardage that we're looking for is going to be 374 yards. Then we play 10% as elevation, 44% slider, so slightly less than medium distance. And for those of you with the thorn, it's going to be medium distance plus 10 minus 0.1. For hole number 6, I'm going to give you two type of approaches here. First, we're going to play one that is a little bit more of the conservative way. And here I'm playing with the Apocalypse level 5. And, you know, you play with the driver that gives you the most distance and topspin together. It could be the extra mile, could be the Apocalypse, could be the Thor's Hammer. It's up to you. I would like us to stay away from the big topper though, because the big topper in a low level needs to be pretty decently overpowered, and that's going to be difficult. So now we're going to go with approximately 3 rings of overpower, meaning that the tip of the needle is going over the blue ring. Okay, maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment, and then just send it. And we're going to get ourselves up to approximately 400 yards in terms of distance. Second shot is going to be with the Cataclysm. You can see that now we do have a little headwind. So it is very important that we do push our drive hard. Sure, now we were a bit unlucky to not get the roll with our drive, but push it a little bit harder. If we go with 3 rings of overpower, then maybe go with 4 rings or 5 rings instead. And especially playing with an extra mile, or even a lower level Apocalypse or Thor's Hammer, you have less distance, and therefore you need to push it harder. I will obviously in the Ultimate Tournament Text Guides explain in much more detail how much overpower you will use based on clubs, which we will not be having time with here. I'm using 5 bars top spin, 1 to 4 bars of side spin to the right, and just get it down there. For me, with this approach, I'm just playing with the eagle, and not playing with, but playing for the eagle, nothing else than that. Second approach is something we're going to not start with the second shot, we're going to start with the drive. This is for those of you that do want to push it very hard, and here I'm using topspin that is equal Apocalypse level 6, even though I Apocalypse level 8, but more or less to display how this one generally would go. I'm playing with a Win 4 Power 4 ball, which is a Wolverine ball. In this case, I'm using max overpower, no curl whatsoever, max, and then 7 top spin, 3 bars of right spin, and then trying to hit perfect. Obviously, a great left and a great right will also be there, and I would say that will still be fine in many of the cases. And with this type of shot, we're gonna be somewhere between 425 and 450 yards, depending on what type of roll you're getting for the second shot. Sorry, for the drive. Now, second shot, I'm actually not going to use the rough bump. I'm going to use just a regular backspin shot on the fairway, because I feel that the rough bump is we are first and foremost in a very weird angle, but also it's a very inconsistent rough bump. It is very important here now that we're letting the ball guideline go through the hole a lot. And I'm using side spin as well to correct it, and then I'm adjusting this one maximum distance with a 20% over adjustment, and then I'm also adding a little bit more. I want you to play this shot not 20% over, like I want you to play 20% over adjustment, but if we are already in maximum distance, then I would like us to play with 30% over adjustment instead, so we can get the ball to the pin. Very important for that one, but in the end, everyone, we're playing this one for an eagle in general, but you know, if we can be there around the hole, maybe getting one apple albatross through the tournament, that's a major bonus. For the last of the par 3s, we're going to play a rough bump, but a little special one. We're using the sniper, and you don't have to have a sniper level 10 to be able to achieve this, or to achieve the hole-in-one and make this shot, because we are not going to use that much spin. Playing with a mummy ball, and there is so many of the balls that you have wind 4, power 3, and your side spin 1, side spin 2. Make sure to use one of those. Mummy, vintage, your superstar, whatever. You know, there are so many. Hard to keep track on. If you don't have any of them, use a kingmaker. And now I'm using the yellow ring by the bunker, red ring by the top of the rough, and then 3.1 topspin in this video. Now I want us to favor a 1201 pull. And this is more or less straight, but I want you to favor 1201. And last but not least, look what I do there in the adjustment ring. I'm using a smidge of underpower. And that smidge of underpower is key. Very important that you do so. The ball is going to come in and have a very nice roll, but the thing that we are going to have to change here is to use 3 bars of topspin and not 3.1, because we do want this ball that we do have to, you know, like the ball guideline, to come in showing that we're gonna just be by the right edge of the cup. And trust me on that, this is going to be a very, very nice shot for you. To make an hole-in-one. But make sure that you also do one more thing. When you adjust your rings, zoom in a lot, because if you don't zoom in a lot, the tree will be in your face, and then you have to zoom out, and then it's very hard to be accurate with your rings. And medium distance, 10% over adjustment as well. For hole number 8, we're going for green, and here we are going to talk about the drivers. If you have an Apocalypse level 5 plus, then it's a no-brainer. Then you're gonna play with any of those clubs, because Apocalypse 5 to 8 has the same distance, has the same carry. So with that being said, it doesn't matter if it says an 8 here by this club. It could say a 5, I would be playing it the same way. Here, are we using 4.5 bar side spin to the right? I'm also using, in this case, 5 bars of topspin. I would like you to play with 6 bars of topspin, as I think that's going to be ultimate to get this ball to green. We do adjust maximum distance with a 10% over adjustment. And then once we have done that, we push up our club into max. Like absolute max. And then we go with max overpower. Sure, we do risk going into the rough or the sand on the right side, and also in the sand on the left side, but, you know, going for green is what we need to do with this type of win, because we are going to be close to green more times than not, and therefore going to be much simpler eagle than if we're going to have to lay up. Thing to think about though, if you do play with an extra mile, then I would suggest you to play obviously with extra mile that gives you the most topspin and distance together. That's the same when it comes to the Thor's hammer. But be really aware, if you do play with superior clubs, like, you know, Thor's hammer 6+, like Apocalypse level, I would say 6+, that the topspin will obviously be very intriguing to use. But don't use more than 6 bars, because we don't want to roll over the green into the rough on the back. We rather want to stay short of green and have a wedge towards the pin like this. Then we're going to have to use our rough iron towards the pin. So you can get to green in so many different ways here. But in my opinion, you know, the club with the most power, club with the most topspin, adjust max +10, push up to max, max overpower, and get the freaking in. For hole number 9, we're going to play with the club that gives us the most distance and also a decent amount of curl. You can play with the rock if you do have it in level 8 plus, but then you will have to go with max overpower with your drive. And also, in my opinion, going with max topspin as well, which is 5 bars. One thing that you can do as well is to use a power 5 ball. And then you will not have to go with max overpower, but the problem you will have is for the second shot, where we are then most likely going to have more wind to handle than we will be with a wind 3 ball. I'm playing here, and I want you to have in mind the little tweak here. I want you to play with the 4th ring by the rough line to the right, and I want us to play with 3 bars of top spin, max right spin, and when it comes to Apocalypse level 5 plus, so you know, just disregard that it's an Apocalypse level 8 on the screen. Apocalypse level 5 plus, you're playing with approximately 4 rings of overpower. You don't need to play with more. But if you do play with an Apocalypse that is in a lower level than that, then you need to play with more. Apocalypse level 4, 5 rings. If you have an Apocalypse level 3 below, max overpower, and we're also going to apply max curl. Those of you having an extra mile level 8 or those of 8 plus, then you can also use an extra mile, but I would really recommend that you're focusing on playing with an Apocalypse, even if it's in a level 1. But have in mind though that with a low level Apocalypse, the accuracy is really bad, so treat it carefully. This is a tough drive. But once we have made the drive, we're coming up to the second shot, which is going to be played with a long iron. It's either going to be the Goliath or the B52. And we're playing with 3 bars of topspin, max right side spin here. And that's going to be adapted even with a Goliath. Doesn't have to be a B52. But I think it's brilliant to see how the ball guideline is acting on the green for you to then adapt. Now I'm playing this one 90% of my club, which is 12.6 rings, where maximum is 13.2, and we're playing it with a 25% elevation. Could have gone with a little bit more here, but bouncing into the rough, coming down nicely towards the pin, we're getting ourselves an albatross here on hole 9. A tough drive, but in the end, if we do make the drive correct, you will see yourself having an opportunity for an albatross from distance. And again, disregard the higher level of clubs. You don't have to play with the B52-8. You can play Grizzly, you can play Goliath, and you also with the drive, you can play all the way down to Apocalypse level 1. So we're not limited with the maxed out club, but I'm using it due to the fact that I did run out of account trying to test it so we could get the adjustment for the albatross. Thank you so much everybody for watching this playthrough for Expert Division with the tournament wind here in the Spring Major Tournament. Make sure that you do go and become a member on Patreon. Patreon.com/GolfClashTommy for the best guides on the market. The video is sponsored by Golf Clash and Playdemic. Let's freaking go, and good luck in the Spring Major Tournament.